14 minutes after 8 o'clock. Boy, we're going to turn the clock back now. You talk about a franchise and a movie that took us by storm, and it's still going in one way or another. I'm going to let Joe Fortunato take it from there. We're going to film school with film study professor Joe Fortunato. You can tell by the music behind us where we're going to go this morning. Good morning, Joe. Go ahead and take it.
Good morning, Ray. Good morning, everybody. Yes, today we're going to celebrate the 40th anniversary, if you can believe it, of Ghostbusters from 1984. Released June 8th, 1984. Directed by Ivan Reitman. Written by Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Rick Moranis. It stars, of course, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, and Rick Moranis, as well as Annie Potts. And I'm kind of surprised we actually haven't gotten to this one yet in our weekly chats. But it was nominated for 2 Oscars, one for visual effects, the other for Ray Parker Jr.'s title song. And this is one of the most successful movies of all time. It was the highest-grossing comedy of all time until Home Alone took over that slot a few years after it. And adjusted for inflation, this is Columbia Pictures' highest-grossing film of all time, and all-time would be the 32nd highest-grossing film adjusted for inflation. So, and of course, it spawned many, many sequels and reboots and stuff. It's still with us as part of our culture, so it's a pretty big deal. The movie's line, "Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria," that was voted number 68 on the 100 greatest movie lines by Premiere Magazine. And Dan Aykroyd, I told you, was mostly the original, or the writer of the original draft. And his original title for the film was Ghost Smashers, which is so funny because it doesn't have the same ring when you think about it. He was inspired to write this script after living in a house that was allegedly haunted by the ghost of Cass Elliot, Mama Cass from the Mamas and the Papas. All of the scenes, even though the thing was scripted, most everyone did ad-libs on their scenes, so almost all of Bill Murray's lines are ad-libs. The role of Peter Venkman, that was Bill Murray's role, was originally written for John Belushi, of course, Dan Aykroyd's partner in comedy. But, of course, he died while Dan was writing the script, so that wasn't in the cards, obviously, although I will say, just kind of talk in a moment about how they paid homage to Belushi. Michael Keaton turned down the roles of Peter Venkman and Dr. Egon Spengler. Others that were up for the roles of Dr. Spengler, Christopher Walken, John Lithgow, Christopher Lloyd, Jeff Goldblum. In a 2015 interview, Reginald VelJohnson said he was almost cast as Winston. You might remember Reginald VelJohnson as the cop from Die Hard, and the father on with Urkel on that hit comedy show. Other casting, I'm getting to casting a little bit early here, but Steve Guttenberg turned down the role of Peter Venkman to star in Police Academy. I guess we can debate whether that worked out. He did a number of Police Academy movies, but they're certainly not quite as revered as the Ghostbusters franchise. Julia Roberts auditioned for the role of Dana Barrett that went to Sigourney Weaver, but she was considered too young at the time, so didn't get that role. Anyway, one more thing on that. Eddie Murphy was actually up for the role of Winston, and he declined the role, and then it was rewritten as a much smaller part, which is why in the movie that we have presently, Winston doesn't really appear until halfway through the film.
Joe Fortunato Film School with Ghostbusters. And, this is a movie, a lot of filming in New York, if not all of it. And a lot, when you talk about New York, Joe, a lot of cameos in this movie as well. Yeah, and there's cameos in the restaurant scene. Talking about New York, the exteriors of the firehouse was shot in New York, but the interiors were actually shot in a firehouse in Los Angeles that was been used in many movies. But yes, a very, very New York-centric kind of film. It got quite expensive as well during the production of this. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, who, of course, ends up destroying most of New York, that suit cost $20,000, and they made 3 of them, all of which were destroyed during the filming. The rooftop set for the final confrontation with the Ghostbusters, that was on a soundstage, but required 50,000
amps of electricity to be properly lit, and Columbia Pictures had to shut down all the other stages while this scene was being filmed. Very difficult film to put over from a production standpoint. This was originally written more for an adult audience, and the cast and crew were kind of surprised that children loved the film as a fantasy adventure. Once they had the sequel, that was played up a little bit more, less adult stuff and more kid-friendly stuff. And then there was a cartoon in 1986 called The Real Ghostbusters that was, of course, directed directly towards kids. Now, that's the tie-in I wanted to bring up earlier. The ghost, the green ghost that we all kind of know as Slimer, was never referred to Slimer in the film. That wasn't used until the cartoon, The Real Ghostbusters. So that's where that came from. In the actual film, all the crew and all the cast called that ghost Onion Head because it had a horrible smell, which is really weird. But the tie-in that I was going for is they also kind of referred to it as the ghost of John Belushi because, of course, he had passed and he was sort of a pudgy, and he ate food like John Belushi in Animal House, and so that was sort of a nod to Belushi. One other thing I want to talk about is the song, because it's such an indelible part of the success of the movie. Lindsey Buckingham was actually approached to write the theme song, but he declined because he didn't want to sort of get in a rut of being asked to write movie themes. He had just come off a vacation doing Holiday Road. That might have been a mistake for Lindsey, but Ray Parker Jr. picked up the torch, and he was really struggling with it until he was up in the middle of the night and saw an advertisement for a plumber that said, "Who you going to call?" And he goes, "Boom, that's it. That's my hook." And he turned the song into sort of a commercial jingle, and that's the song that we have today.
It wasn't his first, Joe, but I thought this movie really got Bill Murray's, quote, movie career going. And you mentioned how big of a movie this was. He was in a couple of other things, but this one here, as big as it was with Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, and all that crew, I thought this one really jump-started a huge career for him.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, it's a little hard to argue that stuff like Meatballs and Caddyshack weren't pretty important too. But from a blockbuster and a box office standpoint, I think that's pretty fair to say.
Great movie, Ghostbusters, and you said it right, Joe. That franchise here today in 2024 is still alive and well. Who would believe it? 40 years later.
Yeah, huge.
All right, there you go, Ghostbusters. Joe, before I let you go, we did it a couple of weeks ago, but now we're getting closer and closer to our appearance at Jilly's, right? And it's coming up end of July, and you're going to do a big film school on your favorite movie, Jaws.
That's right, July 27th, in fact, at Jilly's music room in Akron. The doors open at 11 a.m. You can come in and get brunch. The film will start at 12 p.m., and we're doing Fortunato Film School live. And for those who've never been there, that means, Ray, you and I will talk about the film for just a few minutes before we start it. Then we're going to screen the film live, and I'm going to be doing live commentary, pointing out interesting production stories, movie mistakes, things that are kind of fun tidbits to look for. So it's a real fun time. And you mentioned this is my favorite movie, so I love doing it. This is one of the hotter tickets that I do when I do Fortunato Film School live. So we want to see everybody down there. And if you know and love Jaws, then all the more reason to come and hear some of my backstory. If you've never seen the movie Jaws, first of all, shame on you. But if you've never seen it, this is your chance to come in and see it together with Ray, myself, and a number of other fans. And that's Jilly's Music Room, July 27th. And you can get tickets. You can go to Jilly's site. Just Google that, and the event page is on there. Or you can go to Facebook and search for Fortunato Film School, and it should pop up. It's a public event, and the links to get the tickets are there, and they're available now. And it's first come, first served, because the tickets, you can actually reserve the seating that you want in the facility. So you want to do that early.
Yeah, we had a packed house for Psycho. We've done this twice. Raiders of the Lost Ark and Psycho. And Psycho, we were packed in there. It's a lot of fun. And what Joe does with us on Fridays is very much a digested version of film school. When he gets into it, he does a great job of analyzing the film, the behind the scenes stories, some things that are in the film that we might not realize. And I can't wait to see this one on Jaws. So get your tickets now. We hope to see a lot of you folks there on July 27th. All right, my friend. Great job again. We'll do it again next week. Thanks for the time, Joe.
Okay, I can't wait. See you.
New Yorkers.